Welcome everyone to another edition of HogvilleNET Hoops. I'm your host, Kevin McPherson. It is Tuesday, July 7th, as we continue on Caleb Ourigou watch, day 9, the way I'm counting it. We've got a bit of intel tonight, an update really that kind of feeds into why I had to get back to the sources, and there are a handful of them weighing in on, who's in the lead, what does this look like right now as we continue to wait this out. And of course, I took to Twitter earlier today, kind of reminding everybody that Arkansas's got not one but two players who are banting about this idea and likelihood of reclassifying from 27 to 26. When you include the committed Razorback commitment, Devion Thompson, you got Nike EYBL session play starting up technically tomorrow. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Um, and some photos back in from coming out emerging from the performance center. I'm assuming this was maybe coming out from they were put out on Instagram today, but I'm not sure if they represent what was going on inside the performance center today or if it was from Monday. But either way, we knew the team took a break for the 4th of July Independence Day holiday. They were off most of last week. And so I assume these are new pictures. Not sure about that, which tells us that the team's starting to get back in and again, then start preparations. Obviously, at minimum, limited summer practices, but potentially ramping up to the 10 full practices that'll be allotted for the summer tour. And we know that tips off in just 24 days. So at some point, Arkansas is going to be going through full practices. Interested to see if John Calipari is going to invite the media up to come inside the performance center to check out, a portion of practice as soon as this month. Maybe we wait until the fall, which has been the case since Calipari's been at Arkansas. Previous coaching staff one year, when they had the summer tour, they let us come in before the summer tour took place, and a couple of times after that. I believe. I think at one point in time we get to come up two or three times as media for practices before the season started. So you just never know. And then we'll have a pro hog update as Darius Acuff Jr. continues to show and prove that he is got star potential in the NBA. Even though this is summer league, you always pump the brakes on big performances. Just certain things you can look and see foretell the future a little bit. And so we're going to talk about Acuff's big performance last night, as well as Jonas Aidoo, who has been really solid in summer league. We're going to talk about that as well. In fact, he plays again today as the California Summer League and the Utah Summer League are now, after today's games, will be completed. And then Thursday, July 8th, will begin, or excuse me, Thursday, July 9th, will begin the official Summer League for all 30 teams, which is in Las Vegas. And then you'll have even more Pro Hogs available. 9 total was what we counted on these pre Summer League rosters before games started being played. Things sometimes shift and change based on injuries or just whatever. But for now, we think there's as many as 9. So let's get into the Caleb Ourigou watch. Let's get it started with what we always start with lately, day 9. And remember, I'm counting the days that began with Monday, June 29th, because we were told officially left Fayetteville or Northwest Arkansas the day before, Sunday, early in the morning, June 28th. So we're counting the days since it's day 9. And we had a lot of intel yesterday, kind of updating you I've had 5 sources weighing in. They've all felt like Arkansas is in the lead. That expanded to one of those believing that a decision's already been made in favor of Arkansas, just not publicly announced. Source couldn't confirm whether that's been shared with Calipari, which if that's the case and a decision's been made, you got to think Calipari knows that by now, and it's just a matter of going public. But we said only 1 out of the 5 said that, and we've said this is a close call all the way around, have said that consistently. We don't think Arkansas has some big advantage here, and that NIL likely decides this one. In fact, I had a tweet yesterday. I brought it to the show, had an image of it that I'd put out earlier in the day on Monday saying this could come down to a bidding war. And as the sources weighed in, they still felt like Arkansas is in the lead here. And so there was a lot of intel. One of the intel pieces from last night, again, was one of those sources telling me, look, after that UConn raise in NIL to take the NIL lead last week, immediately after that, BYU followed by Arkansas, both of those schools increasing their NIL offers. to leapfrog not only UConn, but then the speculation was, well, did Arkansas then also leapfrog BYU? Kind of an assumption if Arkansas is still in the lead, maybe, maybe not. If the NIL's comparable and it's really close, could Arkansas manage a small deficit there and still win the player over based on the fact that the visit went so well? It was his favorite visit, we're told. Things we've already talked about. And so all of that. And then last night also, an update from the source who on Sunday, and on Sunday's show, I believe it was Sunday, we brought in, hey, the idea is maybe he will announce at least the commitment, if not the reclass, sometime this week, even though beginning tomorrow, he's going to potentially, if he still plans to participate in Nike Peach Jam, which is next week, would then likely be playing with his team this week in Las Vegas. And the Nike EYBL Session 4 is a lead up to next week's Peach Jam. But those games and he are scheduled to start tomorrow. So could an announcement come before those games? We don't have one as we sit here close to 7:30 Central Time on Tuesday night, and his games will tip less than 24 hours. His next game will, if he's going to play and still take part in that. I know, right? Clear as mud like everything else, but even more so, the deeper this goes into this roster finish in now into July, the more convoluted things seem to get. But we thought there was some clarity yesterday with the fact that UConn, basically bowed out of the 26 recruitment by virtue of adding its 15th and final roster piece with a foreign wing, a 6'7" player, international player, could still recruit this young man for 27, like Florida has done, like other teams have done. But he took all these hurried visits, one right after the other, Kentucky, UConn, BYU, then Arkansas, with the idea of likely reclassing or strongly pursuing that, maybe a strong lean toward that with not a full decision made. So we still have that to contend with, and announcements on that. If he chooses to continue to play on that EYBL circuit, whether just this week or this week and potentially next week, his team's in a great spot to lock up, if it hasn't already, a Peach Jam invitation. Then you may have to wait on a reclass announcement. You may have to wait on the commitment announcement. Although the source information, again, that we repeated last night, the same one that keeps giving these most recent updates now about the idea that maybe he will announce commitment this week. They still think he's most likely to do that, or that's his goal. Okay, so there's all of that with no certainty. And we've never given any certainty other than the sources think Arkansas leads, and now one's moved the needle even more, and another one gave more NIL increase updates to include BYU and Arkansas. All right. So tonight's intel is not a big shift in anything really, other than we're going to start with an update that could potentially cause concern. And we've done this, we've been down this road before. It got back to me earlier today. I got a screenshot sent to me from, I guess, Trilly Donovan and wherever he operates. I can never find this stuff on Twitter or Instagram. So wherever he's got a paywall, probably got his own website or something. I get some of his comments sent to me from time to time by Arkansas fans that are engaging with him, trying to figure out what's going on. And they'll say, "Hey, Trilly just said this," and so I get a look at that. Either way, he's saying that Arrigo or someone in his camp are telling both BYU and Arkansas that they plan to join their schools in the near future. In other words, pledge, and that he's hearing that they're promising a pledge to both schools. In other words, playing both sides of it. Well, in a NIL race, and if you're trying to maximize that, that was kind of what we were telling you about the Abena Akizi situation when initially it wasn't clear because when he was having those visits all in a rush, and it started with Arkansas, it didn't end with Arkansas. The idea was, yeah, he's doing this because he's likely to reclass, but no certainty on that. And then we brought you intel that he had told at least 4 of the 5 teams he planned to visit, his camp did, they were absolutely reclassing, even though they hadn't said that publicly yet. And then it was getting out that they were telling various teams different things about what they wanted. But we got intel back that it was probably the Louisville visit, which caught Calipari off guard, where the Louisville coach staff or someone in the Louisville part of it was giving him a different way of looking at his recruitment and what he should be looking to do or add as a request. And so that threw Arkansas off and a couple other teams. But it sounded to me like they were telling each camp, each place they visited, and those coaching staffs, what they wanted to hear. That is not unusual in recruiting, and this recruitment has been similar in so many ways, other than it's taken place, basically coming toward the end of the circuit, during which he's already been playing games, whereas Akese shut it down and did reclass, committed to Louisville, and whatever those extra asks were that were the brainchild of the Louisville coaching staff, that was brilliant on their part because they got the player. It was something they were willing to do and thought it might be advantageous for him. And it turned off Arkansas and a couple of the other teams, I was told, that were in his final group of schools that he visited or intended to visit if he hadn't made it around, gotten around to doing it yet. All right, so that's old news, but there's some symmetry here. And Trilly Donovan apparently thinks that what he's hearing now, and he's been one of the national guys, by the way, that his felt, I'm told, has felt like Arkansas leads. Travis Branham, whose stuff is not behind a paywall in terms of his, some of his stuff that gets out either on podcast or some of the things that he tweets. Again, some of that information has gone public with him thinking that Arkansas is in the lead. I checked before I came on to this to do this episode to see if has he actually put a crystal ball out for Arkansas that's you can see and view publicly. He is not, but he's on record, I'm told, as having said that he believes Arkansas is the leader. Jamie Shaw with On Three Sports. I don't know if they call it a crystal ball or what they do over there behind their paywall, but whatever prediction he has made, and he's in one of the national recruiting analysts who's plugged in, is also that Arkansas leads. And again, my sources have all said it. And we've always said, based on the way they construct these messages to me, though, my sources, it doesn't feel like Arkansas has some huge advantage. And this feels more like an NIL who highest bidder kind of thing. And we've been consistent with that. And we know Calipari's track record, once it gets too rich for his blood, whatever he sets that valuation scale that he wants to maintain. And so we're repeating a lot other than the update that's going to lead into my intel of what apparently Trilly Donovan's now saying, that someone in Ourigou's camp, and I don't know how this was framed exactly or phrased through the full context of the conversation. What it boils down to is apparently telling Arkansas folks at Arkansas coaching staff and same at BYU the same message. I'll be on your campus soon as part of your team. Whether true or not, whether that's you know is it I would need to know the full context of that situation to know if it's as simple as that, or maybe telling schools, yeah, you're hearing that Arkansas is the leader and a lot of people are saying that that's not true. I have a great interest in being part of your program still. Let's say it was framed that way. That's a little different, right, than saying, yeah, I'm getting close to make it public commitment announcement to you, which may be exactly what that's what maybe what Trilly's saying he's hearing. It's a stronger statement like that, but I just gave you an example of something I could see being relayed because I've covered recruiting a long time, and some of the families that I'm close to, when they go through their recruitment, it, they tell me that they have to tell staff sometimes, no, we still want to be recruited by you, when in fact they probably do have a leader, but they want to see they want to. They don't want options being shut off to them from other schools who are scared by that. Who think, well, if you're an Arkansas kid, you're automatically going to end up at Arkansas. Why should I pursue this? Especially when I'm hearing Arkansas is untouchable. Some of these families and now reps, and what we used to call handlers, they say the right things sometimes. It doesn't mean that Arkansas is not in the lead. And this is where the intel is. I said all of that to kind of paint a picture of, I'm not even sure the full context of what Trilly Donovan's hearing. And I kind of gave you, is it that precise? That yeah, telling two different teams I'm going to commit to you, or is it there's a little finesse game in there? Not sure about that. But what I am sure about are what my sources think of that. And all five still believe, look, there's no doubt that we've seen it with Calipari and how things can shake out with NIL and him back off. Having said that, based on everything where things stand now, they still see Arkansas as the leader. The source the one of those five that said, in fact, remember yesterday, again, we were repeating it. We brought it up again a bit earlier in this episode that Arkansas is the choice. It's just not made its way to the public, out publicly yet. After hearing that, it's like, look, man, BYU's got a puncher's chance with NIL, but I'm not backing off of what I told you yesterday unless I hear something different from the folks that source of mine trusts. All right, so everybody's sticking to with their guns to where they were yesterday. Just a reminder, nobody feels, I guess the one does. I guess you could say the one source that moved it from Arkansas leads to his understanding is Arkansas's the choice. But now the Trilly information, the only thing I'll push back on is this, and I did with the source earlier today. I'm like, but what if what you heard is what Trilly's saying that and you only have half of it? That yeah, his camp is telling some folks that, and maybe someone on Arkansas staff certainly that Arkansas is the choice, but maybe saying some of the same stuff to whoever needs to hear it to keep BYU in it. And at the end of the day, whether you like the Arkansas visit better or not, whether you like Calipari better or not, whether you trust Calipari more or not with your future and getting to the league and helping you develop, or whatever your thoughts are there, at the end of the day, what do we always say? Money talks and everything else takes the bus. And a lot of these decisions are really going to boil down to the NIL. If it's marginal and close, maybe the highest bidder doesn't get it. But all it takes, again, is for teams like BYU or Kentucky, who I'll throw back in there again, who will way overpay for players relative to what the rest of the field who's recruiting that player are willing to do. It has happened. And we mentioned yesterday some of the complexity with BYU. It's not necessarily an either or situation with an international frontliner, but it could be an NIL situation even for BYU as it tries to round out its roster. And so for Ourigou, it might be advantageous to drag this out as long as possible. And even if he thinks, yeah, I'm going to go to Arkansas, but this is a way to maybe get more out of Arkansas. Calipari, we know if he gets wind of that and believes that is going on, that might be enough where he doesn't have to hear the next raise in NIL to back away if the sniff test isn't what he thinks it should be based on what is being shared with him from Ourigou and his camp. Those are all things to consider. Things can change in real time and shift the direction of this. But as of now, everyone's sticking to their guns that I talk to. So there's that. Yeah, it's again, you're in the age of NIL. Recruiting was already difficult and hard to navigate, and players change their minds. Things change. You don't think money has a big part in, causing shifts, and the wind carrying the sails in a different direction all of a sudden. So if that happens, we're going to jump back. In fact, if something happens in real time, even later tonight, after this is published, I'm not going to just put it in the comments. I'm going to come back and go live and say the wind has shifted. BYU's got the best offer. Kentucky's got the best offer now. And Arkansas's now all of a sudden playing from behind. The lead's not been great, but it's a great number of people who believe Arkansas's in the lead. And I just really, and I don't know if Trilly Donovan has reassessed his own feelings that Arkansas leads. I think the way it was posed to me was this is just something that just got back to him. And it could cause anybody to question that. But again, I don't know the full context. That's why I kind of gave another angle on what that might actually be. Who knows what it actually is. But speaking of um, Caleb Ourigou, we put out a couple of tweets today about the first one I put out was on Davion Thompson. I'm going to read that to you and show you that tweet next because it's going to matter for the context of how I worded this. 2027 priority target national top 50 Caleb Ourigou has helped 17 New York Rens to a 7-4 record through the first three Nike EYBL sessions. And I put his, statistical averages on here. His team will open session four play in Las Vegas tomorrow, and that's Wednesday, July 8th, and they tip at 7 p.m. Central Time against the Indiana Heat. Again, that's in Vegas. That's Pacific time, so 5 o'clock out there. But either way, that starts tomorrow. So let's go to the Davion Thompson tweet and how I worded that, and then I'm going to come back to Ourigou. 2027 five-star Arkansas commit Davion Thompson is set to lead 17U Mean Streets into battle this week at Nike YBL Session 4 in Las Vegas with the goal of reaching Nike Peach Jam next week. First game, this is again tomorrow, Wednesday, July 8th is 7 p.m. and they're playing PG Elite. I guess that's Paul George Elite. Okay, so you're saying, well, they're kind of the same message. If you notice, Davion Thompson, I mean, he told me in my interview that his goal was to play in Peach Jam. His team has an upside down record right now, Mean Streets, but I think if they didn't have to play any games in Vegas to finish out session play and then go off records after that, if it was just based on what their body of work is now, I think they would squeak in with a bid to Peach Jam. Mean Streets would be easily in, and probably Mean Streets, would maybe have to collapse this weekend and still might get in and qualify. What's important about what I worded here is Davion Thompson told me in my interview that he wants to play in Peach Jam. So I said he's set to lead his team in this Nike EYBL Session 4, and with the goal of qualifying for Peach Jam next week. Set to lead, acknowledging that he plans to play in it. I didn't do that on Ourigou. I said what he did to help his team get in this position, and I left that open because this has been so mercurial. Remember, he's going to announce commitment and reclass in the week following, no later than 2 weeks following his visits. Well, it seems odd to me that he would announce, even if he does announce a commitment this week, which is week 2, the back end of that initial thought that was expressed. But a reclass if he's going to compete, but maybe he changes his mind and gets a commitment over and doesn't compete. I mean, Anderson Diaz, his teammate on the New York Rens, it came out earlier today. Joe Tipton reported that he is actually going to go ahead and reclass, which everybody speculated. He's been committed to Alabama going on 2 months or 6 weeks or however long. It's been a while. Hell, if it's only been a month, it feels like a year. It's how crazy this stuff gets, especially this time of year, especially when you're still roster building in July. And but you're trying to keep up with all this. So that tells me, without it being formally said, oh, by the way, he'll also not participate on the circuit. And again, he was part of the New York Rens, the same team as Ourigou. I don't know that there's a loophole way for him to compete now that it's announced he's gonna reclass. And I think because typically when players reclass, they go ahead and they just don't compete anymore. You could commit to a school like Devion Thompson did and then leave open the idea of reclass and then formally get to that once you've finished your competition. So I mean my thought is I doubt that Anderson Diaz, that the 6 foot guard, top 35, top 50 guard that Arkansas recruited for a while. I doubt that we see him. And does that prompt Ourigou to say, well, wait a minute, I could see that both ways. Either he helps his profile and puts up even better stats now that he doesn't have the alpha score running the show. He also doesn't have the best playmaker and setup guy for oop dunks and that kind of thing. I mean, I don't know what he's going to do. Since I don't know, I didn't frame the tweet, even though we did have a source from the Nike EYBL, telling us 2 days ago and 2 episodes ago when I brought it as intel, that as far as they knew, the plan that as they understood it, was that he would compete. But again, things change so often. I wasn't confident enough to bank on that, especially after the Diaz announcement today. So I worded it the way I worded it. I know it's really getting into the minutia of things, but I'm just trying to explain my process and why I do things a certain way that I do them. Um, all right, so we looked at both of those. Let's get to this last recruiting part before we get to the Hogs. Demarcus Henry, top. I mean, some services having ranked as high as third, class of 2026-7 wing. We've talked a lot about him. Vegas Elite, and he just participated in that gold medal run, or excuse me, he was on, excuse me, not the gold medal run, back in June with Davion Thompson, teaming with him on the team that got the silver medal in the U18 AmeriCup down in Mexico. So his next competition, now he also went through MVPA Top 100 camp, but the next competition on the circuit for him will be also Nike EYBL, and he's on the Vegas Elite team. So he's on the team that's based out of where Session 4 is being played, Las Vegas. But he also, yesterday, Joe Tipton on Monday tweeted out that Arkansas was one of 8 teams that Demarcus Henry has, I guess, narrowed his list down to. Remember, fall visits. I mean, players that want to get off don't want to wait till the spring and they want to get it done early. Early signing periods in November, and a lot of the visits will take place in the fall. And so this is one of the players. Remember, we had brought you intel a few weeks ago who had a source saying Arkansas's got at least 3 visitors in the finalizing the planning stages, deciding on dates, or maybe some of them have already been pinpointed. We believe Paul Osarui, whether he's one of those 3 or not, he already probably knows which dates in August. We just don't know him yet, but we know he intends to visit Arkansas in August, and it's got to be somewhere between the 20th and 31st because the 1st to the 19th is a dead period. God, everything takes an hour-long explanation, doesn't it? Everything. It's just twisted like that. But Demarcus Henry, we think, could be one of those 3. Arkansas has prioritized him, offered him shortly after at session 2, the first live eval session, the only one in the spring for coaches to be there in Memphis. I was there shortly after that. Henry gets the Arkansas offer down to North Carolina, Kansas, Brigham Young, Kentucky, Louisville, Ohio State, UConn, and Arkansas. I just did that by logos, top to left to right, top to bottom, just like they taught me in first grade how to read. That's how I went through that list real quickly for you, trying to move through that. I tipped and tweeted this yesterday. I saw that tweet and thought I had retweeted it, and I didn't. And then it popped up on Instagram, and I got that notification. So I took a snapshot, and that was today. And so I just tweeted out the Instagram version of it, and just declaring the fact that apparently Arkansas's in his last 8 or final 8 or top 8. And again, visits lined up soon, so he's probably not going to play around a whole lot. But we do see players change their list or alter their list, and NIL will certainly factor into stuff like that. So pay attention to that as well. All right, let's get out of recruiting. Let's get some stuff knocked out here so we can get out of here. Or now we're finished with recruiting. Let's get to the Razorbacks. Okay. So earlier today, speaking of Instagram, how about Abdou Torre posting this photo on his Instagram account? I went and grabbed it and said, you know what, I'm going to tweet that out. It's really cool. He's hanging out with Jalen Williams, um, and they're having fun. Looks like they're hanging out and having fun. Big smiles. And then later in the day, notification popped that JJ Andrews said, "Yeah, I was hanging with Jay Will too. I guess I could have put those up at the same time. That was the plan. That's why that one's a little smaller. But there's JJ and Jay Will. The first one with Tori looks more like a candid shot. This is more of a pose, smiling for the camera. Either way, there's smiles on everybody's face. Jay Will's always smiling, even when he's battling, the Joker or Wimby or whoever he's got to guard in the playoffs. He's still smiling all the time, right? Even when he's got to play mean and bad. But look, it's always cool when the Pro Hogs are in the building. This is also why I think these are probably very recent photos, if not from today, maybe yesterday. But the team again was out over the holiday break. And I think this tells us they're back on campus in there doing work. Jay Will in the building as well. A lot of times the Pro Hogs will come in and get some pickup run or some summer run with the team. And so we just don't know what level, what all Jay Will was doing in there. Obviously on his summer break for now, but I thought that was really cool. All right, how about Darius Acuff wrapping up playing 2 of the 3 games in the California Classic? His Kings going a perfect 3-0. Well, of course he started, but that's what I tweeted last night. The game started at 9 p.m. Central Time, late start. He had 22 points, including 4 of 9 from 3. So shot really well from 3 after going only 1 of 9 in the first game of the Sacramento's version of the California Classic. Made both of his free throws, 4 rebounds. Official stats had him with 3. He had 4, 3 assists. Should have had 10 or more assists. His teammates aren't very good finishers. We brought that up when we talked about game 1. He should be off the charts with assists in both of these games. Just doesn't have the kind of quality help to finish off some of his really excellent passes. A couple of blocks and a steal. How about 3 stocks for Mr. We get on his butt sometimes for not being good enough defensively? Still a work in progress, but he had some really nice hustle plays. And you like to see the stocks box score +4 and a 95-89 win. It was a 1 possession game with under 30 seconds to play. It was 92-89 and just an unreal with a taller, bigger, athletic, very athletic defender in front of him. Just a really unreal little dribble setup and step back for a deep pull up 3. Acuff buries that to expand a 3-point lead, double it to 6, and go from a 1 possession to 2 possession advantage with under a shot clock left in the game again, around 22 seconds, game over. And we know he dimed on the game winning 3 with a tie game in game 1. And remember, he also hit the free throw a few seconds prior to that to tie that game. And so Darius Acuff, we can look at some of the shooting numbers, especially how horrific they were overall in game one when he started 1 of 10. If you look at him after that, he's been solid shooting the ball. His decision making as a passer has been really, really good. He just doesn't have a lot of help from the guy that's supposed to finish. Some of these really nice setup passes that he's making. And I mean, 3 rebounds, that's just fine from the guard spot. Seeing him average in 2 summer league games, a steal and a block, it's a bit noteworthy. Not that I expect he'll continue that, but we just don't know what he'll do. And sometimes stocks can be misleading for a defender because some defenders can really compile those because they gamble a lot. They're not necessarily sound consistently with all the aspects of playing defense, footwork, positioning, communication, help defense, those kinds of things. And so sometimes you take stats like that with a grain of salt and trust your eyes. I do see the effort though with Acuff, which tells me, and because he's such a gamer and because he's so cerebral, and then offensively, I mean, this guy sets up to be a star in the league. He just does. Dylan Cardwell, former Auburn big, who's on this summer league team and has actually been on a two-way deal, and I think last year actually signed some regular contract. Haven't researched this. I think that's true with the Kings. And he's obviously on this summer league team, but he took to the podium last night after the game and said that Acuff is a generational player, stuff that we were all talking about while he was in college, in that he's just, you saw the defense and the Milwaukee Bucks sending traps and blitzes at him when he crossed half court and sometimes before he got to half court to get him off the ball. You just don't see that in summer league. That's just not really a thing, and it was a thing. It's becoming a thing, and let's see if that theme moves into Las Vegas in a few days, and let's see if how many games I expect Acuff to at least open up on Thursday night against the Clippers. We don't know that for a fact. And then if he does, we might have to just enjoy that last performance as a last performance. Some teams shut it down 1 or 2 games into the big boy, to the main summer league in Vegas, because the asset's too dear and too valuable to risk injury, and they've seen enough. I mean, Acuff should be, he's averaging, I had it on the screen through these 2 games, 23.5 points that led the California Classic, 3 rebounds, 3.5 assists on average, and a steal and a block. And we know the shooting percentages because of how rough they were in game one didn't exactly climb the charts in the best way. All right, so let's look at this guy. Let's see if I can get this. I'll have to put these on. I lose my place, and the print is it's faded. It's faded on this menu of things I can select to bring up. The background's black, and the lettering of the item is dark gray, so it's almost like you see no letters. And for a blind guy like me, that's trouble. TMI, I know. It's what I love to do. I care enough to share enough. Pro Hog and Jazz center Jonas Aidoo had 10 points, 4 of 6 from the field, made his only free throw. Remember the deal, if you're not inside the last 2 minutes, if you get fouled and would normally get 2 free throws, you can only have to, you shoot one. If you make it, you get the point value as though you made two. If you miss it, you also get nothing. You don't get a second free throw. So 10 points, 7 rebounds, a game high, 5 blocks, assist, and a box score +5 in 23 minutes. Utah and Darren Peterson taking on, it was a win over the Memphis Grizzlies and Cam Boozer Monday night. So that was last night as well. And that's the Salt Lake City Classic running kind of in concert with the California Classic. And just a few teams in each of those. Again, the big boy, the Las Vegas one, all 30 teams coming up in a couple of days. So through 2 games, with Aidoo playing again tonight, game 3, let's see that Utah's playing again tonight. I assume Aidoo's not going to be held out, and if he's healthy, he should play. But through the first 2 games, averaging 6 points, 6.5 rebounds, 3 blocks, 2 assists, shooting 62.5% on field goals. There's a guy that's helping himself potentially make a case. Hey, some team out there, whether it's Utah or somebody else, take a look at me for a two-way contract. And so these are the kind of opportunities. I'm not saying that'll happen, but I'm saying those are the kind of opportunities you afford yourself by being effective and productive. And that was a close game. It's not like he's getting mop up time and blowouts. And some guys don't get off the bench. I don't know that Micah Henlotten's got off the bench yet, frontliner for the Utah Jazz. So Jonas Aidoo has. Good on him. All right, 35 minutes in. Thank you for joining me on HogvilleNET Hoops. I'm your host, Kevin McPherson. Less intel tonight. Still clear as mud. I have to say it 3, 4 times every show. In addition to the 3 or 4 times I have to repeat all the twists and pretzeling and all of it, because that's just how I do it. And my words still get twisted. In fact, until next time, appreciate every last one of you. Please hit subscribe, like, and share if you haven't done that already. It helps us out. Again, if you like the content, hype it up, put comments in after the fact, turn your notifications on. Hell, the roster's not even finished, let alone all the stuff coming up. The summer tour, just down the road a little bit, and plenty of action now. Nike EYBL. I mean, I should have said it when we were talking about that. You don't think Arkansas's coaching staff's not going to be out in full force, courtside, not only to see Davion Thompson or Caleb Ourigou if he's playing, or guys like Demarcus Henry, but so many other players. Beckham Black. I mean, Beckham Black's just getting back from Turkey, going to be back on the circuit, I'm sure. Unless someone's dealing with injuries, some of these high-profile guys that Arkansas is recruiting, they're back on the court, and now the coaches are going to be out to see them. There was talk that Brad Calipari was in Turkey while that U18 or U17 World Cup Championship 7-0 gold medal run by Team USA. If in fact that's true, then that means once again Arkansas had a coach, a staff member courtside for international play, which they've done every summer. So that probably is true. I hadn't even brought that up. I've meant to a few times when that event was going on, and we just didn't get around to it because we've been fixated on Caleb Ourigou. Until next time, appreciate all of you. Hope your week's going great. We'll see you soon.